There's no reason. I heard a honk, I also honk. Where there's a lot of honking going on, our irritability quotient goes higher. Yeah? We get annoyed very quickly. And then long term, it has been found to lead even to depression, panic attacks, road rage, which can result even in death, can start with a honk. Traffic police people, by the time they retire, about one third of them have hypertension. By the time they go home, they say, "Sir, we keep getting that ringing sound even at home." Honking is not just about pressing that button. It's a very complex kind of a thing, and it's connected to so many things. According to our study, the safety honking, if I can call it that, is only about 20%. So the remaining 80% is not at all justified. This is where we are trying to make people understand. If we can bring that down, our quality of life will improve. There are a lot of reasons. One of them is just absolutely without thinking, out of habit. Another one is surprisingly ego. It's like, the louder and the shriller the horn is, I'm a bigger person. The whole thing about honking starts when you are learning driving. The quiet place remains quiet, whereas a noisy place gets noisy. So, enforcement or no enforcement, it's better to take care of it ourselves, because the person who honks, he has to realize that he's a perpetrator and the victim. I mean, I use my two-wheeler for 100 kilometers without honking. Why not another 100? Why not another 1,000? Just imagine how noise and horn is connected to safety of the traffic, safety of our own safety.
Average traffic noise levels in Indian cities have reached 70 to 95 decibel levels, which is very noisy, and it doesn't allow us to transact with each other, talk to each other, and the general voice levels also needs to start getting higher because of all the ambient noise being higher. It's a mess. We don't even think about traffic noise playing a part, and in general our Indian cities being noisier than some other city. We need to fix this. There's something wrong, and somebody I know has been working on this for quite a while. Quite a few people have, but this is someone who I know who's been working on it. His name is Raj Dugar of Citizens for Citizens. I've had him on my show previously around traffic issues and suburban rail issues and other things. But today we are going to talk about traffic noise, honking, which is a huge part of the traffic noise that is in our cities. I am Sathya Sankaran, and you are listening to the OoruLabs podcast. Raj, welcome to the show once again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Satya.
I think we spoke a couple of weeks about all the interesting things that you were doing around this very specific thing called noise pollution. We have so many pollutions. We talk about air pollution all the time. We are able to feel it. Then there's water logging, all these issues. The most often ignored one is noise pollution. We don't think our cities are noisy. Sometimes we do feel it is extremely noisy, but we don't realize it unless we go to another place which is actually no noise, not so noisy.
True.
And then you come back, and then that's when it hits you that we are living in such noisy cities, right? But why do you think that is a problem?
Yeah, I mean, it's such an important thing that what you've just now said, the contrast. So if there's no contrast available, we think this is the normal thing. And we get used to it, we take it for granted. Now, technically, I was surprised to know that noise pollution is clubbed under air pollution, because the medium of noise transmission happens to be air. The other point which you mentioned is about the consequences of persistent exposure to vehicular noise pollution. In fact, Satya, to tell you frankly, even I was surprised to note the wide range of consequences which we never think about. So some of these I can straight away tell you, which some of us will, it'll start ringing a bell. For example, irritability. When we are in a noisy place, like let's say city market, where there's a lot of honking going on, our irritability quotient goes higher. Yeah? We get annoyed very quickly. And then long term, it has been found to lead even to depression, panic attacks. And of course, medically or other, as far as the hearing goes, there is a hearing loss which happens as we grow older, let's say 50, 60, 70, but now with exposure to persistent noise pollution, this hearing loss is setting in much earlier, in 30s or 40s. Apart from that, uh, surprising to know that even the fetus in the mother's womb can get affected because of too much of noise nearby. We can have accidents. You know how? I'm going on a cycle or I'm just walking, and suddenly somebody comes behind and honks loudly, and I kind of react, and then I might, fall off the cycle, or I may just, go in the way of some other vehicle. Productivity comes down. Our efficiency comes down because of the noise. We're not able to give our best. Stress, of course, we all know hypertension. Heart disease is connected to noise pollution, and temporary or permanent hearing issues. Vertigo, which, that giddiness which sometimes people feel, that can get triggered with intense noise nearby. And then, recently when we were doing a campaign with the hospital unit had told me that, when they tell some of the patients that, okay, tomorrow you can get discharged and go home, and the next day the doctor goes, what happened? You're not looking well. He said, sir, I could not sleep because too much noise coming from the outside the window, from the vehicles. So the recovery of patients takes longer time. Students are not able to study properly. They are not able to focus or concentrate on their studies near the exams, especially. And we all know sleep gets disturbed very badly. And one more thing which I would say is an extreme case is road rage, which can result even in death, can start with a honk. Looking at all these things, the consequences, one of the tests which was done by one of the hospitals in Bangalore showed that, came up with the result that about one third of the uh, traffic police people, by the time they retire, about one third of them have hypertension. And I've actually spoken to these traffic police people. Their situation is miserable when they are standing in the middle of it all and through the day. By the time they go home, they say, "Sir, we keep getting that ringing sound even at home." So this is the uh, massive, and I would put it down in two words. It is slow poison.
So we're right next to a road and there is noise coming in, and we wanted to put bamboo barriers to, prevent that. We have the luxury of doing that. Whereas if you look at all the people you said, the policemen and so many people work outdoors.
Yes.
They work on the street side, they work at construction sites and many other places where the noise levels are massive. And the traffic noise is just adding to these kind of noises and creating a lot of issues. And we have our own issues. Even sitting inside, last time I was doing a podcast during the Ganesh Chaturthi, the whole noise that was coming up. There are lots of other things, but honking was a major issue.
Yes.
You pointed out.
Yes.
There are different types of noises. For me, the vehicular noise seems to be the biggest in the city because it's constantly there at all times, right? Uh, why did you try to think about sound pollution and honking as a cause in cities?
Well, the thing is, in our country, this menace is rampant across the country. There is no, you go to any city, any place, uh, there's too much of honking going on. And nationally, the ratio of people to vehicles is about 4 is to 1 or 5 is to 1. Whereas in our city, we have the dubious distinction of having almost as many vehicles as there are people. We have 1.4 crore people, let's say, and there are about more than 1.2 crore vehicles already. So this is actually a very complex situation where the number of vehicles are so much and the traffic congestion is so much. Uh, Honking also proportionally goes up because people are getting stuck in the traffic. So instead of having that little patience, they keep honking. And when I've seen not just traffic policemen, people who are like, for example, security guards or small cafe people are running those small little tea shops and all that. There, when you look at them and you see that what they're going through, I was thinking this is really bad. And then I started looking into uh, what does the law say? And it's very interesting to note that there are laws in place, there are rules in place, but because of lack of enforcement, we are doing this. And then I thought it's better to bring out, as citizens we can only do awareness, we cannot do enforcement. So that is when I started thinking that we need to make more and more people aware of the consequences, about the laws and rules, and about how to, see whether we can reduce this for our own good.
Is patience the only reason we honk? Why do I'm just trying to think back. After I spoke with you last week, I tried not to honk a couple of days at least.
That's nice.
And there were a couple of incidents where I came across, and there was the two-wheelers are suddenly turning, and you are afraid. You try to stop, but you also want to let them know that, hey, look, you might come and hit at me. I'm right behind you. There is a lot of chaotic movements which are not organized in a nice way, which seem to be coming all over the place, hitting at you. Somebody cuts across, somebody is going here, somebody is jumping queues. There are so many reasons, and every little infringement we seem to want to tell somebody else, and honk. What are the reasons you think we are honking? Why do you think we are honking so much?
So
I've never seen this anywhere in any other country. Why are we honking so much?
So this is an extremely important point for us, all of us, to understand what you have raised. That's why in the beginning I said that honking is not just about pressing that button. It's a very complex kind of a thing, and it's connected to so many things. For example, the rules that we need to follow while driving or riding, the safety, the precautions that we need to take. Now, let me start by saying that there is, by law, we are supposed to have a horn in the vehicle. So, in a way, in certain situations, honking becomes mandatory. For example, you have to use it, or you better use it when to save yourself or somebody else from an accident. That is absolutely required and perfect. For example, another example could be when there is a visibility issue. For example, in a situation of fog, or hairpin bends, or some kind of obstruction due to some large vehicle in front of you or something. And there is also a sign which says mandatorily you must use the horn there. So primarily the entire purpose of honking is for safety and safety only. But here comes the point. Out of the entire honking, that according to our study, the safety honking, if I can call it that, is only about 20%. So the remaining 80% is not at all justified. This is where we are trying to make people understand. If we can bring that down, our quality of life will improve. So what is that? What is that due to? That is important for us to understand, because yes, we are not saying anybody that you should compromise with your safety. But then, what are the other reasons? For example, you would have seen, Sathya, people start their vehicle with a honk. I mean, there's no need to. Empty road, honking. One turning you want to take, honking. One side road is there, you're going straight, honking. And you're coming to your gate, you want somebody to open the gate, honking. Now, what we have realized is that there are a lot of reasons. One of them is just absolutely without thinking, out of habit. Another one is surprisingly ego. Ego in terms of, I want to be ahead of the traffic. I want to go ahead. Because there's one more thing, is contagious honking, I call it. Somebody honks, you honk, I also honk. There's no reason. I heard a honk, I also honk. So these are not required at all. Another thing which there are a lot of such things. For example, an ambulance is stuck in the traffic. I know it's not easy to give way sometimes, but then you will notice, if you observe carefully, that people around that ambulance are not trying to give way, but they are actually trying to go with the ambulance by honking their way through, bulldozing their way through. So this is something which happens mostly in our country, because they think as soon as that ambulance will get a clear way, and let's also make it with the ambulance. And then when the light changes to green, the signal light, somebody is way behind. Actually, we don't understand. Need to understand one thing, that the person in front, he will move. He doesn't want to sit there. I'll come back to another question there. He doesn't want to stay there. He wants to move, but he'll move provided the way in front of him is clear. But then the thing is, we are behind and we start honking. Of course, there's the other side to it. There are people which is completely irresponsible. at the signal they start using the phone, or their attention is somewhere else. That is completely wrong, and that is why this honking takes place to a small extent. That is justified, but there also we are doing it out of habit. And then another thing is, absolute insensitivity and apathy towards anybody. And that is highlighted by the fact that when people use, these loud and shrill and multi-tone horns, and let me tell you, all these three are absolutely illegal as per the law. But they use that. Those people, actually, I would request them, please step out of your vehicle, come in front, ask somebody else to use the horn and listen to it yourself. You'll definitely get, like completely perturbed with the amount of sound that comes out of it. Then there's another aspect, a sense of insecurity. That's when people, when they start the vehicle, they start honking. Actually, one of the slogans that we use is a safe driver does not need to use the horn. And I'll come back to that later. Another thing is like, we have accepted it. Honking is part of our life. Nobody cares, nobody objects. Same thing like you said just a few minutes ago, when we go out of India, or let's say like Singapore, Dubai, or wherever, we ourselves don't honk. Why is that? Because there it's not an accepted norm. Here it is okay. Impatience is another thing. We spend hours in the traffic, but that fraction of a second, we are so impatient, we want to start honking. And then we sometimes use the horn to express anger at somebody, annoyance. Somebody rides in a way which we think is wrong, and then we start honking. These kind of things, very funny things. I see somebody on the other side of the road, I know him or her, and I want to attract attention. I start honking. That's not the right way, to call somebody. So these kind of things. There's one more important thing which we have realized during our study is that the whole thing about honking starts when you are learning driving, and the guy sitting next to you who's teaching you how to drive, he keeps telling you horn nodiri, horn madi, horn madi. I mean, this is where the whole thing starts. The seed is sown there because you start thinking that is what you're supposed to do. I mean, this is not right. I think the driving school people need to understand that. And there's one more thing I would like to say is that this VIP culture. We have seen so many times, these the drivers of VIPs, whether it is politicians or anybody else, they want to, it's like, the louder and the shriller the horn is, I'm a bigger person. I mean, this is actually very insensitive thing. And, when there's one last point I'd like to say is, when we enter a room, Satya, and if there's a lot of noise happening, we will also speak louder. We will maybe much louder than we would normally. But if we enter a room which is quiet, everybody's, like speaking quietly, we will also speak quietly. So basically, it's some kind of a contagious disease where if a lot of people are honking, we will also honk. So that's what I call as a quiet place remains quiet, whereas a noisy place gets noisy. It's a kind of a complex situation with so many reasons possible for why people honk.
When you get into a quiet place, you tend to speak in hushed tones as well. I noticed that as well. That's a nice way of pointing it out. I call this horn as the Twitter of the traffic world. Everybody's shouting at each other without making sense, But there's one word you did not use in all of this, which is, I thought might be appropriate, which is selfishness. I feel that at the end of the day, it is always me first. Right? Instead of braking at a junction, you want to honk and say, I am going through, you watch out. You know what I'm saying? So we put ourselves first everywhere. We want to go through. We want to speak, hey, look, the signal turned green. Maybe you're not watching, but I'm telling you it is on. There's a lot of, it's you're literally speaking with the horn, and that leads to all of this noise, and it leads to all of this commotion, which is your horn is just one among the 100 and it is not even noticed.
Yeah.
And in the end, the whole horn system has lost its meaning at all. We have become insensitive to anybody's honking. In fact, I tell cyclists, if somebody honks, don't worry about it. They're just trying to be irritating about it. It doesn't mean, so we have had to become insensitive about the horn because you made it valueless.
Yes.
If you had no horn and one or two horns were that, you will pay attention to the horn.
Absolutely.
and you will think that, okay, something serious is happening, let's all kind of be alert. So the more you used it, the more you degraded its value, and then you got into this multi-tone horns and all of these things. How do we? Where do you think we can start? Let's do one by one. We'll talk about people's what people should do, individuals should do. Then maybe we can go into this horn modification business. Then we can look at the driving schools, and then we can come in the end to probably the government. What should individuals do? Where should we
Before
start?
that, there is one important aspect I'd like to touch briefly. That is what the law says, because many people
Fair.
are unaware since there is hardly any enforcement. So I was also a little surprised, and actually when I was at an ACP's office and I was asking him about this ACP traffic. So he gave me a huge book. He said, Rajkumar, just study it and let me know what the law says. So I really did that. I mean, I went through the whole thing and I realized that, the law is very clear. The law says any loud and shrill honking. Now, these two will be determined by what is called as decibel levels. Now, I'll not go into those technicalities. There are decibel meters and so many decibels depending on the vehicle and all that. So decibels, that is specified in the law. Multi-tone horns, or as they call it, musical horns. I firmly say there's nothing musical about these horns. So these horns are loud, shrill, multi-tone horns are all illegal. They can be, they cannot be fixed. Full stop. Now coming to honking, this is the horn part. Coming to honking, the law is very clear. Unnecessary, repetitive honking is a traffic offense and can be penalized. Honking in silence zones, people don't realize this. Silence zones are, near about 100 meters around educational institutions, 100 meters around hospitals, and any place which is designated as or notified as a silence zone. You're not supposed to honk at all. And surprisingly, honking at night, that is 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., in residential areas is also not allowed. So the law is absolutely clear. The enforcing authorities are armed with the laws, but then the enforcement is not taking place for whatever reasons. Now, if there is enforcement, obviously we'll all follow it, because like the helmet rule, if there's no enforcement, we'll throw the helmet. But if there is enforcement, we'll use it. But then the point here is, when we understand that it is a slow poison, first thing, we are affecting our own lives. So enforcement or no enforcement, it's better to take care of it ourselves, because the person who honks, he has to realize that he's a perpetrator and the victim. And Bangalore has about 70% vehicles are two-wheelers, no protection at all from noise pollution. Cars, you can say, okay, I put up my window, I don't care, the noise is less. But then two-wheelers are the maximum number of vehicles here, and most people are honking away to glory. So this is as far as the law is concerned. Now, what can be done from as an individual? As I would say, very simple is that after understanding the consequences of persistent exposure to this kind of pollution, we need to have little bit of patience, little bit of sensitivity. With this, I am sure that our driving habit can improve to such an extent that not only will we not need to honk, our driving will become very much safer for ourselves and others.
You tried it. Tell me about it.
Yes. A few years ago, I said, it's easy to talk to people saying that, everybody used to tell me like, what the hell, you can't, this is India, you have to honk, and people come in the way, there's this, that. Okay, fine, great. So let me try this without honking, whether I can do. Initially, it was a little difficult, let me admit that. But then I said, okay, I will have a small goal and I'll see how it works. So I decided to ride for 100 kilometers, not continuously, but then the counter was continuous. If whatever the reading on the counter said, next 100 kilometers within the city, I would not use the horn at all. This is what I decided. So I started off, and consciously I said, okay, let me not use the horn. And so I realized slowly, as the kilometers passed over the next few days, I realized that actually I'm driving more consciously safely, and also, I actually don't feel the need for the horn. By the time I completed that 100 kilometers, Satya, it was an amazing experience. I said, wow, what is the need for this horn? I drove, I used my two-wheeler for 100 kilometers without honking. Why not another 100? Why not another 1,000? So, to tell you very frankly, uh, the honking that I do nowadays is like what they say once in a blue moon. That's it. So I have realized that this is the best way, and if everybody starts doing it, we will not need to complain. We will not need to, our city will become safer. Just imagine how noise and horn is connected to safety of the traffic, safety of our own safety. Accidents can come down because, this rash riding and driving and, this arrogant driving, if I can call it that, all that leads to a lot of accidents and deaths also. We can really come down in that because we, by not honking, we become completely safe.
I think we should try this. I'm going to try this as of this podcast.
I
I'm
call
going
it
to try, start.
hashtag 100 kilometers no honking challenge.
Okay, it's a long hashtag, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you how many times I actually did.
Let me also clarify here. In case you have to honk in between, no worries. You had to, save yourself or somebody. That's perfectly all right. Start from zero once again. Do 100 kilometers, and you'll find the difference. I guarantee.
Or take 100 and see how little you can, and try to reduce that for every 100 kilometer. Try to reduce it. Keep it.
Yeah.
Keep a target of getting it lesser and lesser and lesser, and at some time. That's a very useful way of looking at it. Set ourselves targets, and maybe tag Raj and C4C and hash 100 kilometers no honking challenge.
Absolutely.
Quite a mouthful, but I'll put the hashtag so people can actually do that as well. But I also believe at some point we should start putting something like a you first instead of a me first attitude on the road, because we are in a commons, and the more selfish we are, it's not just about honking, it's also about road rage, it's also about cutting other people off, you trying to get ahead. These are all culturally bad attitudes to have amongst ourselves when we want to live with other people. You can do that probably in your business and in your house. You would never do that in your house. You would never say me first and trample over your kids or your family. But why would you do that with your neighbors and everybody else? Is that you just want to put yourself on the streets and then just, it's late for everyone. It's slow for everyone. That's what we have made ourselves in the city. So you can't just go out. It's a hard job, but I think we need to start thinking about it. It's a very good way of setting targets and going forward. What are the role of these driving schools? Because hardly anybody even actually passes a test in the RTO. These days licenses are given to people who are riding two-wheelers who don't even know which side of the road they are on. It's the common saying is we don't drive on the left side of the road, we drive on what's left of the road. It's almost like that, and people are turning every which way. Half of my honking is because everybody turns immediately thinking the ocean of traffic will part for them. There is no conscious attempt. All the rules that were supposed to be defined, nothing is followed. The transport department and driving schools, have they failed on the job?
Definitely, they can do much more. I'll come to the driving school and transport department, but you raised one very interesting point about the impatience, if I can put it that way. We need to understand one thing, that scientific studies have shown that the average speed of vehicles in Bangalore is around 18 kilometers per hour.
Correct.
Now, what I have found from my studies is, honking or no honking, it remains the same. It remains the same. So there is no point. What are you getting out of it? Nothing. And frankly, if you are not in that honking mode, you are at peace with yourself. Forget others. You are at peace. You arrive at your work or your home much, in a serene kind of a thing, and probably your productivity will be higher instead. So why get into that habit of honking? I don't know. We need to come out of that habit of honking. Now, coming to driving schools, now this is where, like I said earlier, all the fresh new candidate who is like scared to even sit in the car or on the scooter or the two-wheeler, they get to learn a little bit, especially in the car. They are told to learn in a particular way. Now, whatever they are taught at that time, that remains. It's like, when whatever we learn in school or nursery or something. I actually approached one of the driving schools near my house, and because I knew that the trainers do that, honk madi, horn vadi, so that their primary thing is that forget this, they have got that large board, L board and all that, and so nobody should come near them, so keep honking and going. Now this becomes a habit there. So when I spoke to the principal there, I said, your trainers need some training. So when I explained the whole thing, the consequences and how you are actually sowing the seed for this, then, luckily for me, he was so happy. He said, "Please talk to all my trainers so that they, understand this in a right manner, and then they convey the same thing to all the students or the learners." So this was something which I think the transport department needs to take a proactive step by, having all these training schools, because they're under their control, to come across on a single platform where they are told, okay, driving safety, honking, what are the laws and what are the consequences. All these are properly understood by the trainers, because if that is taken care of, I'll tell you another thing where when if I get to know that, okay, loud, shrill, multi-tone horns are illegal, if I get to know at that time, when I buy my car or when I after buying the car, I'll try to avoid it. At least 10%, 20%, 50% people will avoid it. Here, what's happening is they are being manufactured, they are being sold, they are being fixed, and when you go to a mechanic, probably he'll say, "Sir, your horn is very light. I think you can try this. It's a bigger, much more powerful horn, and we are happy doing it." But if I know that this is wrong, I will tell him, "No, I don't want this." That guy won't be able to sell it. So this is the change that is required. The transport department has one more key in its hand. Of course, first time when a new vehicle is getting registered, we'll assume that all the major manufacturers are compliant as far as the horn decibel levels are concerned. We'll assume that. But then when it goes for after buying, most of our people, either change the horn or put an additional horn which is non-compliant. So when the vehicle goes back for renewal of registration, the transport department can easily say refuse because your horn is not compliant. But they don't do it. So we have in fact written to the transport department saying that please start doing this. I don't know when they'll start doing it, but I think they need to do it so that they understand the gravity of the problem. Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, they too have a role to play, because this is a kind of pollution, and the decibel meters, the calibrated decibel meters, come from them to these departments like the transport department and BTP, the traffic police. So all the three agencies, that is transport department, KSPCB and BTP, they have a role to play. On the field, it is the BTP, the traffic police. Now I'll give you an example. I think it was in Mangalore or something, if I'm not mistaken. The traffic police collected all these, these modified exhausts, and they made an example out of it. They put all of them together in a line on the road, on a major junction or place, and they had one road roller go over it. And they took videos of this and put it on social media. This is what we're going to do. The thing is, if it's a one-off thing, people don't, doesn't affect them. But I would say reverse engineering is better. Let us understand all the things that it causes to us. Let us stop ourselves. Let us become more sensitive. Let us become more, patient for ourselves, so that our quality of life improves. So coming to the government side, there is another aspect to it, that is the traffic management. Now, I won't go too deep into it, but I'll tell you certain things. For example, a road, instead of having a uniform width, it kind of narrows down. It becomes a bottleneck. And if there is water logging on the road, then there is a problem of vehicle movement. Apart from that, for example, when it rains, there are a lot of people who stand under some cover, two-wheelers, and then there is honking taking place. If there is a pothole, there are plenty. So people have to avoid that. When they go avoiding that, they might swerve into the way of some other vehicle. So honking takes place. Like this, there are many such simple things like, traffic signal. Uh, they There will be a signal which is not cleaned for months together. So you are not able to visualize the actual numbers there. And sometimes they're not working, the reverse counters. Apart from that, we have also seen, some tree branches coming in the way of the signal. So you got to, duck yourself and see whether it's green or red. So these kind of things can be taken care of. Lane markings, very, very important. So people should get to know that, oh, I'm crossing the lane. So traffic management is a major part it has in this kind of, controlling this noise pollution.
Despite this, Raj, you've been talking to a lot of stakeholders to try and spread this awareness. I've seen your posts in many places, which was interesting. Who all have you worked with? What have you observed? How are they receiving this?
So the major agency which we have worked with is Bangalore Traffic Police, and they have been wonderfully. I was really pleasantly surprised. They're wonderfully, cooperative with our efforts. In fact, every time we do a campaign with some school or college or hospital on the roads, uh, we take we write to the concerned jurisdictional traffic police, and they give us written permission, and they participate with us. They stand with us, and they also, because they are the victims of this noise pollution. So apart from this, what I realized is that, when you go in these enclosed areas, for example, under a metro station, if you go and honk there, you will easily understand that the sound or the noise gets amplified. Now we are just passing through. Just imagine that watchman who's there all day, that cafe fellow, or whoever, some auto. There could be an auto rickshaw stand where one auto driver is standing there for half an hour. Their life becomes miserable. So I was wondering what to do about it, and then about two years ago, I approached Mr. Anjum Parvez, BMRCL, then BMRCL MD, and I explained this problem to him, and he was very, very, clear about it. That no, we need to do something about it. And then he asked me, what do you think we can do? I said, see, enforcement is not in our hands, neither is it in BMRCL's hands, but let's make awareness. So immediately he agreed to our request to put up large bilingual boards which says, metro premises no honking. Now, I wouldn't say that it has eliminated honking, but I'm sure some sensible people who, maybe 10%, they'll realize everywhere I go towards an elevated metro station, it says metro premises no honking. Let me not honk at least there. So that was one thing. The second thing is that along with our campaign, we started thinking that Cubbon Park, which is a major lung space in our city, massive honking takes place. The simple fact which all of us know is that people go there for peace and quiet. They want to enjoy nature, let's say. And right in the middle of that, this massive honking is taking place. So I approached Dr. Avikante Gowda, then Joint Commissioner of Police, and I explained the whole thing. He said, Rajkumar, you need to come out with some more reasons. I need more reasons for this. I agree with you, but I need more reasons. I said, oh, all right. So then, luckily, I was able to get in touch with an ornithologist, Dr. Subramania, who had done a study of the bird life in, and he happily shared the list of the species, 106 species of birds he has recorded in Cubbon Park. And he actually, listed out about 50% of them, actually 47% of those are directly affected by noise. So much so, I was shocked to know this. He said it can even lead to species extinction, this noise. Why is that? Because, the birds, they call each other during mating time. Now imagine the birds are calling each other and this honking noise is there. It doesn't succeed. So this was a big shock, and we don't realize it at all. So I included that in my request, and luckily, very soon we found that Cubbon Park is now notified silence zone. And so, with the help of BTP as well as Horticulture Department, which owns Cubbon Park, We had about a dozen boards fixed inside, and we've done a few campaigns there, not to honk. People still honk, of course. That will stop with enforcement. And now, last year, I was really shocked to observe the amount of honking taking place outside Bangalore's airport. I mean, that is like a gateway for this global city. People from all over the world come there, and they come to an airport which is supposed to be one of our. We are proud of it. So it's one of the best airports, let's say, particularly T2. But then when you step out of the airport, it's like city market. We have recordings of the sounds there. It is horrible. I was with Hari Marar, MD BIL, and I brought this up with him, and he said, "Raj, I'm fed up. Can you please help us?" So last few months, we've been working very closely with the landside team at BIL, and I'm happy to see that they have started taking certain steps to see how they can reduce the honking by the drivers there. And there is some encouraging results. I think it will take some more time because mindsets have to change. And there are some traffic management steps also being taken up at the airport landside.
You're at least creating more silent zone in important locations with stakeholders who kind of understand and probably will help us do a bunch of things. But the bigger story now, again coming back to it, is this culture of the room being noisy in general. How do we get the noise levels in the room? How do we get everybody to shut up a little bit? Bring it down and say, that's not the value of your horn is lost because all of you are speaking at once and too many times. How do we bring this down? Which of these tools you have? There is the multi-tone thing has to be done. There is the transport department who have 100 things, says after registration, we don't know what to do. And the police are left holding the ball like everybody else.
Yes.
They not only have to fill potholes these days, they also apparently have to declog the drains.
Yes.
And now they have to fix everything related to honking, moving this way, that way. So all other departments cause the mess. The traffic police end up holding the ball at the end of the day. And again, we have to bark at their door now and say, help us stop this. All these levers are there. Where do you think is the more bang for the buck? To me personally, your 100-day challenge, no honking challenge, seems to hold most promise. But I don't know how far and wide we can get it. Where do you see this going?
No, it's not going to be easy. It's going to take some time. If there is enforcement, yes, it will happen faster. But let's assume that there is no enforcement. Our lives are getting destroyed. Now, I like the way you put it across when you said that, modlu nee hogi, amel nan hogi. I think that kind of thing makes the city more livable, more safe, more, friendly. So I think, and it doesn't cause any loss. A lot of gains, no loss. We are still at 18 kilometers per hour. So, of course, that can improve with public transport. I'll not go into that now.
Yeah.
Then the thing is, we need to understand all the various aspects. Why are we doing this? First of all, let's not fix non-compliant horns. Even a normal horn, it's not that you're louder and shriller, your average speed goes up. It does not. In fact, you may end up in an accident. You may end up losing time because of some road rage incident. You may end up with so many situations. Why do all those things? Just be compliant. Tomorrow, suddenly, if they, I actually, I must tell you this right now. Across all types of vehicles, the upper decibel level allowed, to my knowledge, is 112 decibels, and there is a thinking in the union government transport department to reduce that to, let's say, 80 decibels, because consistent exposure to above 70 decibel, persistent exposure, actually damages hearing. So they are planning to reduce it to the upper limit to 80 decibels. Now, suddenly, if that happens, most of our horns will have to be changed. So why fix a non-compliant horn and then have to, replace it? You can do very well with a compliant horn, and in fact, lesser than that also. So we need to become patient. We need to become sensitive, and the government also has a role to play. They need to do their own role, but all of us, and then it's a snowballing effect. because, like we have talked earlier, the quiet room, that is something which is very strong kind of effect which it has. It's like a clean place remains clean, dirty place gets dirtier, something like that. So if we take a small area and say, okay, let's keep this quiet, anybody entering that area will remain quiet. So that's the thing. As far as citizens, we need to become aware, we need to spread awareness, and we need to set an example. And of course, that 100 kilometers no honking challenge is a good thing to start. Good way to start.
Awesome, Raj. Thanks for coming on the show. Good luck with everything you're doing. Hope we get more silent zones. Hope more authorities start understanding that, hey, we need to get our act together. And at the end of the day, it's in each one's hand to make our city
Yes.
no honking, please, free.
One example I would like to say is small town. It's a capital of a state, Mizoram, Aizawl. It is amazing to see the traffic there, not so much because of enforcement, but by self-control. People don't honk. People don't cross the lanes. People they're not impatient, and still they get their work done. They live happy life.
I think we should all mimic some good things from this kind of place. I've heard of Aizawl a lot,
Yes.
Especially pictures of people not violating traffic rules. Being disciplined, it gives you a different culture in that place. You start respecting each other.
Correct.
The whole city is better off that way. But thanks again for coming on the show and talking about this. I was very interested seeing all your efforts and wanted to see if we could probably run something out and make a difference in this whole space. Thanks for everything you do, Raj.
Always. Thank you.